you very much. I would like to thank you about the invitation, and I apologize not to be with you and to be part of the discussion, but like that, I don't have the right to go in India for the moment. Thank you also for giving me the opportunity to present you a dam removal operation that is the largest of its kind in Europe. This operation was carried out by the French government civil engineering, and there is the two parts of that. One of the civil engineering part is be fully managed by the civil department of the States, and another part was to follow the parameters that can show what is the impact of this dam removal on the river. And so I don't have the time to show you all the parameters and all the research works, but I will show you today only a little part which concern about the Aboitic fluxes monitoring. This monitoring, I was employed in this monitoring with other people since 10 years more or less. So the dams removal concern a little river in France, which is named the Selune River, and the mouth of the river arrive in a very famous bay in France, which is the Bay of Mont-Saint-Michel. And the Bay of Mont-Saint-Michel, it's a well-known place for tourists, but also it's quite important for its economy of mussel and oyster production. So there is some economic deal with this dam removal operation, because in the bed of Mont-Saint-Michel, people are more or less afraid by the consequence of this dam removal on their production of mussels on the oyster. So the watershed of this river is quite small. It's 1,000 square kilometers. And here I show you a map that show more or less the position of the dam relative to the size of the watershed. And in red, you have the part of the watershed which is not influenced by the dams. So there is two dams. The first dam was built 1 century ago, which is called La Roche-qui-Boit Dams. It's a not very high elevated dam, it's about 16 meters, and it was built to produce electricity. This is the main function of the two dams. It's only the production of electricity. There is no idea of to protect people against inundations or to keep water for the agriculture and so on. It's only to produce electricity. So the second dam, it's Vezin Dam, which is situated upstream of the La Roche-qui-Boit Dam. This one is higher. It's 36 meters, and both Vezin Dam and La Roche-qui-Boit Dam concern a difference of elevation around 50 meters, which is quite a high elevation if you consider the panel of dams that was removed since today. The situation of the two dams is the following, that you have first La Roche-qui-Boit Dam downstream, and at the end of the lake of the La Roche-qui-Boit Dam, you have the Vezin Dam, which is bigger, and here you have some numbers that give you the idea of the volume of water and the volume of sediment that are trapped in the dam. The total sediment stock that you have in the dam, it's around 1.6 million of cubic meters, and it is an estimation that of the deposit of sediment that you get since 100 years. And more or less, this estimation allows us to estimate the yearly inputs of sediment in the dam lakes, which is around 20,000 square kilometers, cubic meters. Alors, the part of the sediment, the question of the sediment is quite important because the main fear of the population around the dam, and specifically in the Mont Saint-Michel Bay, was that this sediment will go downstream, be transferred downstream too quickly, and will dump all the biology of the river, and also will transport some pollutant, because we know that into these sediments you have metallic heavy metals that come from industry that are in the watershed. And this industry, since several years, didn't treat with efficiency this pollution before that water that they use came into the river. So why we remove the dams? One of the first reasons was an economic reason. These dams are old, and because of that, they need renovation. And the price of the renovation for these dams, it's much higher of the benefits that you can get producing electricity. So in face of this big investment, the French company of electricity production don't want to make this investment. And this because these dams represent quite low hydroelectricity capacity, which is around 15 megawatt. There is another reason, is that it is an environmental reason. It's true that in this watershed you have a strong agriculture production, very intensive. So you have a large part of this production that produce nutrient, and a part of this nutrient enrich the water of the lake dam, and with you can get quite very good conditions to produce regularly each year a bloom of toxic cyanobacteria, and this production decrease very highly the quality of the water. And a part of this water is used to make potable water for the population, and there is a quite strong question about how to evaluate the economic benefit on the economic cost to produce this potable water when you have a too high concentration of toxic molecules coming from this production of cyanobacteria. And this was quite a strong question enough to say that the water of the lake is not could be not used for the potable water. And you have another question which is also quite important. The river Selune is still one of the rivers in France that have a quite high potential of strong migration of emblematic species of fish, and specifically the fish of aquatic salmon or European eel or lamprey. So it's true that to get very big dams like that into small river avoid any migration for the fish. So you have also, I come back to the problem of the sediment. It's true that the main problem for this dam removal was how to manage this sediment and how to avoid that strong transit of this sediment to the Mont Saint-Michel. So that's why, and in 1993, there was a reservoir drawdown, and with massive sediment runoff until the Mont Saint-Michel, and the population was very shocked by this impact of this problematic drawdown, and they don't want to see anymore this kind of consequence. And so the State Department has done everything to avoid any migration of sediment during this dam removal operation. That's why they have done a quite large civil operation of different types. One of these types is to reprofile the ridge and to get more or less what is a classic way of this type of operation is more or less a classic way to control the shear stress of the water on the transport sediments rate. And so they make they rebuild the ridge in the upstream part of the lakes. And you can see here one picture which show what kind of how they manage it, and one pictures here that show just after the management. So you can see very clearly the small terraces, and then after you can see 1 year later, how this area has been reprofiled naturally by the vegetation and the migration of the sediment from the bottom. The second way of operation, it's to make a dragging operation of sediments and to put these sediments in some reservoir that has been built during this operation temporarily. And so we put the sediment, which is more or less mud, and we leave this mud to settle in this reservoir. And then after, when the level water was drawn down, this sediment will be dry, and we leave the vegetation to reinstall in this tank to settle the sediment. And then after, they retrieve the concrete system of gabion that constrain this reservoir to show a more natural aspect of the valley. And the third way that they manage for managing the sediment is to use a very big bags, and they put the mud of the sediment in this bag, and they wait a certain time that the water contained in the mud will be dried by these bags, and then after they open the bags and they leave the sediment in place. The cost of all this handling has been estimated as 35 million of euros. So it's quite a big operation for this kind of restoration type. This operation has been done, I will say, during maybe 20 years. So you have quite a strong process of decision process that to prepare this operation and to prepare people to accept this operation, because people don't want, mainly the local people, they don't want this operation because they are very they like much the landscape with the lakes, and this was the main I will say the main point that why the people don't want to have this dam removal operation. The removal operation itself spent more or less 5 years, and then after we are looking what happened about different parameters, biotic and abiotic parameters. So it's just to show you this removal. So you have in the top the Vezin dam removal operation, and then after à La Roche-qui-Bois you have also this figure, the pictures about this operation. What the main questions that we are looking for with the scientific team is to understand in how much time the river will go back to a quite more or less natural value. And what is the main problem about sediment transit to the Mont Saint-Michel Bay? And the idea is if the return period is quite quick, we can consider that the project is a success. Alors, the problem is how to define what is quick or long. So it was our main goal to try to define the dynamics of different parameters moving to other values that the values previous the removal. So to do that, so now I'm only speaking about abiotic parameters. So I just would like to show you first how we manage it. So the idea is to follow different parameters at different points of the watershed, and there is two main monitoring station for that. One, it's upstream the two dams. So here you can see with the Google pictures the lakes of the dams. So you have the Vézard Dams, which is here, and La Roche-qui-Bois Dam here. And so you have one station upstream, which is called Viré, and another station, which is Signy. And at both of the stations, you have different equipment. So you have different probes, and you have also a sampler that can be able to sampler during the flood and to observe what are the evolution of the concentration of the parameters during the flood. So more or less we get 24 samples of at each flood that came through the station. And so we analyze this during in laboratory, and this monitoring was performed since 2015. So we have more or less at least more or less 10 years of monitoring. So it's that to show you what is the impact of the removal on the flood. Here, in the graph, in the top graph, I show you one hydrogram, and in black you have the value of the discharge upstream, and in red you have the value of the discharge downstream of the lake. And you can see, so we are before the removal, and you can see clearly the influence of the dams on the discharge dynamic in time when you are below a value of discharge which corresponds to the overflow of the flood. And you can see that when you are above this value, which is a Q2, we get the same dynamics between upstream and downstream. So it shows you clearly that these dams don't dump the flood. It's a transparent dams when you consider the flood. And just after the dam, we get back to a more natural progression of the discharge between the upstream and downstream. And so you can see that all the little variability of the discharge is transferred to downstream. So we have just one little problem about the rating curve for one of the stations here for low discharge. Here it's a figure that show you quite important results. In blue you have this is I will say it is the value of the specific annual sediment fluxes, meaning that we make the balance of each year of the sediment fluxes, and we divide by the drainage area of the watershed. And here, each point, each symbol corresponds to one hydrological year. And you can see that upstream, which is the blue point, we have a quite nice trend that is characteristic of the behavior of the watershed in terms of sediment production. And this trend should be our reference trend if we consider that downstream we get back to a natural system. And here in orange, you can see the trend before the removal of the dam of the specific annual sediment fluxes. And you can see that this trend shows a trend with a lower weight that show that between the difference between the both trends show how much sediment are trapped by the dam. And very easily you can define that over 70% of the upstream sediment has been trapped by the dam during 100 years. And the idea for us is to understand how this orange trend will join the blue trend with the time. How much time it takes to that both trends will be similar. So because the continuity, the sedimentary continuity happened in May 22, we have already since 1 or 2 years other value that indicate the behavior of the watershed downstream of the dam in terms of specific annual sediment fluxes. And this in a red circle, you have the new value for after the continuity, the after the dam removal. And you can see that we are in a time where the production of sediment downstream is higher than the production of sediment upstream. It is quite logical because a part of the sediment that has not been completely managed by the civil work, and a part of the sediment has been flushed during the first moment of the sedimentary continuity. And just to show you what happened in 1 month, just after May 22, we have quite a large flush of fine sediment that produce a bank of sediment deposit along 7 kilometers from the La Roche-qui-Boit dam, which is the second dam which was removal. And this flush wasn't been during flood. You can see here in these pictures that so in red you have the turbidity and the turbidity value, and in blue you have the discharge value. And you can see that almost the higher increase, the large increase of turbidity happened when there is no flood. And you can see that there is a lot of value for turbidity because the probes were completely covered by sediment and doesn't work anymore. So that's why we manage to get back the turbidity, and just after 1 month, this flush will disappear. But this sediment still on place, and the question for us is to understand how this bank will be eroded or not, and in how much time. Here, I just would like to show you some dissolved abiotic parameters. So the one which is quite important for the ecology, it's nutrient phosphorus and nitrate. And here in left, you have the concentration, the average concentration of phosphorus, total phosphorus, for different years. And here it's upstream, and here it is downstream. And you can see that upstream is relatively constant during the time period, and downstream you can see that before the removal it was very low because the total phosphorus is quite combined with the sediment, and with the beginning of the work, the civil work, and until today, we have an increase of this total phosphorus in the water downstream. and it's getting larger this year in 22-23 because you have more sediment which are released considering the rate of sediment that you have in upstream. For the nitrate, we can clearly observe the impact of dam removal retrieving. Here, for example, in dark, you have the upstream value of nitrate concentration, and in orange, again, the downstream value. And you can see that upstream, regularly, you have a strong depletion of nitrate concentration, which are due to flood. And because you have a dilution effect due to flood and the input of fresh water coming from the rain. And when you are downstream, because you have the dam influence on which dump this impact of the flood, the signal of the nitrate concentration just follows the seasonal variability. And in 2017, when the big dam, the Vezin Dam, was removed, we lose this damp effect, and with the time, we can see that we have the same dynamic of nitrate concentration. So we get back to the same variability of the nutrient concentration. You have also, before, for example, for the nitrate or for the phosphorus and the nitrate, we are more or less with more conservative traces, chemical traces. But we have another trace which is interesting. It is dissolved silicate, and with the dissolved silicate, you can see clearly the impact of the dam's reservoir. Again, in dark, you have the upstream value, and in orange you have the downstream value. And what you can see is that before the removal of the dam, regularly you have a depletion of the silicate value downstream. This is clearly explained by the bloom planktonic bloom increase during summer that induce a sink of silica, because part of the bloom of the plankton use this silicate for the skeleton. And as soon you destroy the condition of the planktonic bloom, meaning warm temperature, still water, and gradient of nutrient concentration that were in the lake, you lose the engine of planktonic bloom. And another part which is quite important also for ecology is the temperature of the water. Is just to show you how is the temperature evolution before and after the removal. In winter, here in blue, you have the upstream value, and in dark you have the downstream value. Sorry to inverse the color. And you can see that downstream the temperature value was show less variability, and high frequency or low frequency variability was less downstream value in winter. And then after the removal of the dam, we retrieve the same dynamic. And this is also true in summer, where you can see that during summer, before the removal of the dam, you have a shift of temperature which is very clear of between 2 or 3 degrees between the upstream part which is the upstream part of the watershed and the part which is downstream of the lake. And this shift is not is quite significant for the biology, because now with the climate change, the increasing of the temperature is really a quite big problem for fish species. And because of the effect of the dam, you have an increase of this effect of the climate change. And so we after the removal of the dam, we reduce this impact, but we don't avoid the problem of the climate change and the increase of the temperature in the river. So I would like to stop now because I prefer to have more time for questions. But if you want more information about this operation, you have a website that is also in English, so we can get some information about on the report, on the I will say references to get more information about the complete operation and about all the parameters that it didn't show you in this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Crave. The session is open for the discussion.
So it's a quite interesting work you presented, basically dam removals. I just want to know it, to remove the dam, what are the basic criteria you consider? Because that's why it's quite important that you should not disturb the, like so much sediment load was there, dam removal, the sediment part. What was really basic criteria, that there is a less disturbance should be there to downstreams, or what was there, and what are the challenges are there?
At the beginning, it's true that you may have different point of view. For the states, one reason was also to follow the European legislation that promote the restoration of river by deconstruction of thresholds or on dam, and this is quite important for France to show that they try to follow this recommendation, and that's this operation because there is other arguments to say that these dams wasn't useful at all, and it cost more to maintain them that to remove them. So it was quite a good opportunity for the French states to say, okay, we try.
My question was that, did you prepare any guidelines how to remove the?
No. I didn't participate in non-scientific teams, research team participate to the decision and to the management of the removal itself. So I cannot tell you why they decide to apply this kind of management. That's true that for us it was quite strange to put so much money in this management. Definitely, maybe this money will be more useful to do other operations.
So my very specific query, once you decide for the dismantle of dam, so you have, if you look at the reservoir, you have the reservoir of nitrate, silicate, phosphate, what you said, and also the sediment, right?
Right.
And you said that the bioorganisms like phytoplanktons, that silicate is correlated with each other. So once we break the dam, so how you could manage those nutrient factors remain in the reservoir to the downstream, so that the impact on the ecosystem or the organism has not hampered?
It's true that it is an important question. About the consequences, so the consequences of this abiotic evolution, abiotic parameters evolution on the biotic part of the river is still in progress, is still in the study, meaning that the other teams that working on the biology part have made the monitoring, so it's still ongoing, but we try now to understand the complete chain of impact, meaning from what you say, that what is really the consequences of this new dynamics of nitrate concentration or phosphorus concentration in the ecological system. It's not fully understood and is not fully completely analyzed, but we are on the way to do it. What it is true that you have a strong, it could be you may have a strong impact on the oyster or mussel production in the Mont Saint-Michel Bay, and this is one of the big questions. It's how this new dynamics of nitrates of phosphorus will have this impact of this economy, because we know in the Mont Saint-Michel Bay that the nutrient input coming from the different rivers that have their mouth in the Mont Saint-Michel Bay participates strongly to the biologic production of this of mussel on the oyster, and this was one of the questions. But I cannot tell you exactly all the consequences because we are just 1 year after, so we have to wait 5 years. So we have money to follow this monitoring until 27, and we hope that at this date we can demonstrate if there is any evolution in the dynamic of the production. And but what we are looking mainly in the river, it's how the fishes, the emblematic fishes species will recolonize all the watershed, and if this operation has favorized the production and the migration of the fish. But I don't know if I have really answered to your question.
Yeah, fine. And the last, that is for my information, if you look at the downstream of the dam, do you have any tributaries join in that to the main river channel?
Yes, we have all the tributaries, it's true. And one of the tributaries have a strong concentration of nitrate, and it's true that one of the questions now, it's not anymore the dam. One of the questions now, it is what about the water quality of the river? And now this water quality, because it is no more influenced by the dams, it is now the problem of the intensive agriculture that is applied on the water. And we know that the water quality of the river is not very good because of that. And this is quite a common question in main part in this region, and about the more intensive agriculture that is in question on how to manage to retrieve a quite good quality of water in river, but also in underground water.
Long live India and France friendship.